I know. Before you flex your fingers, getting ready to leave me an angry comment down below, please keep watching because it may not be what you think. I'm not convinced at the time of recording by the evidence so far that Alex Murdaugh is guilty of deleting his wife and reportedly his favourite son. For the purposes of this trial, the evidence is overwhelming for the financial crimes, and his defence team are basically saying the same thing. That's the aspect I'm really concentrating on, and how I can have compassion and empathy for this accused murderer. If you're new here, this is Croftalytical, where I use creativity and experience to help us make sense of ourselves and the world around us. So if you're interested in a different perspective and want more of this kind of compassion in your life, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And if you enjoy this video, even if you disagree with me, give it a thumbs up. So, how can I empathise or have any compassion for Alex Murdaugh? Well, this isn't just about him, but he's a really good example of the kind of person I talk about when I discuss true empathy. In no way am I condoning or forgiving his actions. Compassion isn't forgiving, it's understanding. He's made some terrible life choices, but I can still have compassion for him. First, let's dig into generational pressure, and that will help us understand ourselves and him. We all experience a level of generational pressure, whether that's pressure to have kids or go to university or have a certain career. There are expectations that our parents or grandparents or whoever is in our life has for us. For someone like Alex Murdaugh, that is so much heavier. It's 3 or 4 generations of highly successful, powerful men. It's expected that sons in each generation will go to university, become lawyers, pass the bar, become a prosecutor, DA, judge, go into private practice, or then become a partner. And each time you reach a goal, it's then shifted. There's no congratulations, you've made it. Here's your next goal. All while upholding the family name, being well known in the right circles, keeping up appearances, living a certain lifestyle, and to add to generational wealth. You also need to find a spouse, get married, have children who are then expected to repeat this cycle. This tradition, which is just peer pressure from dead people, gets heavier every generation. It's a cycle that's harder to break with each year, let alone full generation. This next part is purely speculation. I don't know Alex Murdaugh, but if I put myself in that position, here's where I end up in my thinking. You have this generational pressure. What if you don't want to go to university? What if you don't want to be a lawyer? What if you want something else from your life? What if you don't want that weight, that guilt? Well, you still have to go to university. So you struggle because you aren't passionate about it, or you're not motivated by that vicious cycle and you want out. How do you cope? Well, for Alex Murdaugh, the answer was prescription drugs. Now, we can sit here and judge that choice, but again, let's look at the family. Is it hard to believe that past generations had addictions? Alcohol is normal in our society, even more so when you're expected to be the centre of high society social life. It's not difficult to imagine that alcohol and other addictions were present or even normalised within his family. Addiction has a strong genetic component, and no one starts down that path with the intent of becoming an addict. It starts slowly, and before you know it, you need that drug or that drink. Most drug addiction gets out of hand when they are covering for emotional pain. And it's not hard to believe for me that there was emotional pain given everything that we've discussed so far. Now, he has to pay for that. Allegedly, he was spending $1 million or more a year on prescription drugs. That's a hefty bill. And you've got to pay that while hiding your addiction, and your debt from your family, friends, co workers, and clients. He was living the high life, but running out of money. Now, most of us have been there on a smaller scale. Who hasn't thought, I shouldn't go out tonight, I can't afford it, and gone out anyway? Or I can't afford to buy this, but bought it anyway? Most of us didn't do well with our first credit cards or overdrafts. Well, it's like that on a far bigger scale that to most of us feels like monopoly money. He started to borrow money. And I am sure that is how he felt about it when he first started to defraud clients and the company he worked for. He did that to fund this generational pressure, to manage expectations, and to fund his habit. In his mind, he knew his bonus would cover what he was taking, but that money got used faster than he thought it would, and he got trapped in this cycle. He was confronted by work, he paid it back, he had to get more crafty, and in the end, committed serious fraud and made some very bad choices that affected real people who needed that money. Now, I'm not saying that's okay, I'm not saying it's right. It's just most of us have experienced something like this, just on a far smaller scale. We've seen big stars do this as well. You look at Justin Bieber. He retired from music for a little while and spent way too much money and made some bad choices with his behaviour. For people here in the UK, another example is Paul Gascoigne, famous footballer who, as soon as he retired, became a very unwell addict. It's not unusual. We all know the Amy Winehouse story. It is not hard to understand how this happens. Any one of us could have gone down a bad path with just one bad decision, one different choice. I know I've made bad choices, and if I hadn't have stopped when I did, who knows what could have happened. We are all just one bad choice away from a terrifying spiral. One last thought. I came at this from an innocent until proven guilty standpoint. Staying with that, this trial must be horrific for him and his son Buster, for Maggie and Paul's family, friends, co workers, to see and hear the final moments and the aftermath of this unbelievable tragedy. All of the terrible secrets being aired are probably secondary to that. It's a fall from grace and a bereavement that also has a lot of generational guilt built into it from birth. That is how I can have compassion and empathy for this accused murderer and fraudster. Thank you all for watching all the way to the end. Let me know if this has brought you a fresh perspective or different context. And if you are still going to leave that angry comment, you are more than welcome to. I am more than open to respectful debate and discussion. While you're there, make sure you give me a thumbs up, and more importantly, subscribe so we can better understand ourselves and the world around us together. Thank you.